All right, now we'll get started. Again, thank you everyone for joining today for the Special Presenter Initiatives webinar for the fiscal year 25 cycle. My name is Sarah Lewis, and I'm the Program Director of Performing Arts and the Accessibility Coordinator at Mid-Atlantic Arts. I'm a white woman with very short brown hair. Today I'm wearing a white sweater with a gray sweater on top. It's a bit chilly in my home office. Where I'm zooming in from, which is located on lands known as Baltimore, Maryland. I want to acknowledge the legacy of the Piscataway and the Susquehannock peoples, and the enduring legacy of the Piscataway, Lumbee, and Eastern Band of Cherokee community members in Baltimore City today. So again, I'm happy to welcome you to today's webinar on the Special Presenter Initiatives, or SPI program. I'm here with my colleague, Sarah Tunay, who is the program specialist at Mid-Atlantic Arts. Today, we're going to share what this program is, who is eligible, how to apply, and how adjudication works. I have about 30 minutes of content information to go over in today's slide deck, and then we'll take a look at the Special Presenter Initiatives application through Mid-Atlantic Arts online portal. We'll have time for questions at the end of this presentation. The presentation itself is meant to be an overview and a resource. It is definitely my strong recommendation that you go ahead and review the online guidelines that we have available at midatlanticarts.org so that you make sure that you can have the whole picture of what this grant is about. So with that, I am going to advance us next. So for today's webinar, if you have any questions, please put them in the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen or the top, depending on where your control panel is on Zoom. We do have live captioning with us. Today is Maria. Thank you, Maria. To turn on live captions on the control bar of your Zoom screen, select More, and then select Show Captions. In terms of accessibility, if you're in need of accommodation at any time filling out your application, you can reach out to me. My information is on the screen. My email is slewis@midatlanticarts.org. And I do welcome you to reach out anytime to talk through possible accommodations that you might need for this program. You can also reach me by phone at 410-539-6656, extension 110. All right. Before we get started with the content of the Special Presenter Initiatives info, I want to share a little bit about Mid-Atlantic Arts with you. Mid-Atlantic Arts supports artists, presenters, and organizations throughout the Mid-Atlantic region through unique programming, grant support, partnership, and information sharing. The organization was founded in 1979, and it is aligned with the region's 6 regional arts organizations, as well as the Mid-Atlantic region's state arts councils and the National Endowment for the Arts. We combine state and federal funding with private support from corporations, foundations, and individuals to nurture diverse artistic expression while connecting people to meaningful artistic experiences, both within our region and beyond. You can learn about Mid-Atlantic Arts work at midatlanticarts.org and about all of the regional arts organizations, or RAOs, at the RAO website using, which is usregionalarts.org. Sarah T is going to put both of those in the chat now. All right, so now let's talk about the Special Presenter Initiatives program that you are here to learn about. I'll sometimes use the acronym SPI for this program. SPI is a presenter-led opportunity for presenters based in Delaware, DC, Puerto Rico, the U.S. Virgin Islands, West Virginia, and the Native nations that share this geography. The program is funded through the NEA's Regional Engagement Program, which was formerly called Regional Touring Program. This money provides funding to the regional arts organizations to support touring across each respective RAO's states and regions. You can find out more about the REP program at the NEA's website. The program is intended to support artist tours to small and medium-sized presenters in the states and jurisdictions listed above, and to support presenters' engagements of artists and communities throughout these regions. Organization size is self-defined for this program, but we do ask the organizations to identify as a small or medium-sized presenter. Here are some important dates for this program this cycle. The final application deadline is Thursday, March 14th, 2024, and the project period for SPI supported engagements is July 1st, 2024 through June 30th, 2025. In this section, we're going to talk about eligibility for a Special Presenter Initiatives program. This is how to determine whether a presenter is eligible to apply, whether an artist or company is eligible to be proposed for support by a presenter, and whether the proposed activities between a presenter and artist are eligible. So starting with presenter eligibility. SPI is a presenter-driven opportunity, which means that presenters must engage the artist or company that they want to present. To be eligible for SPI, presenters need to make sure that they meet all of these criteria. They need to be based in one of the 5 states or jurisdictions that are eligible for support, which are Delaware, DC, Puerto Rico, the Virgin Islands, West Virginia, or also any native nations that share this geography. The presenter needs to be designated by the IRS as a 501c3 nonprofit or be a unit of state or local government. Of note, fiscally sponsored organizations are not eligible for this program. The organization needs to demonstrate organizational administrative capacity to complete all the required project components. They need to be in good standing with Mid-Atlantic Arts, which basically means that you don't have any outstanding final reports. If you do, we can work with you. So just reach out to me if that's the case for you. We also ask that we require that the organizations not be a state or jurisdictional arts agency. This is mostly applicable to our colleagues in Puerto Rico. So how are we defining presenter? For this program, Mid-Atlantic Arts defines presenter as an organization that financially compensates an artist or company that is a separate entity from the presenter for performances and engagement activities in the presenter's community. So that means that producing organizations that solely create artistic work or assemble artists to perform as ensembles are not eligible to apply. And then what about presenting history? Presenters do not actually need to have a history of engaging professional touring artists as an ongoing or significant part of their activity for this program to be eligible. We will ask for your presenting history, and if you have it, we'd love to see it. If you don't have it, we will ask you to describe your administrative plan for engaging the artist within your existing staff structure, among other organizational priorities. An eligible presenting organization may apply for a maximum of 2 special presenter initiatives applications per cycle. This would be for 2 different engagements with 2 different artists. So you cannot receive 2 grants to present the same artist or company in a touring year. Let's talk about what artists can be engaged with support through SPI. Again, this is a presenter-led application, so artists are not eligible to apply directly. But as a presenter, as you think about which artists you would like to apply to receive support to present, keep the following in mind. The artist can be based anywhere across the US or around the world. This is not a roster program. That also means that the artist can be based in your geographic community as well. And the artist cannot be currently on the Performing Arts Global Exchange or Mid-Atlantic Tours roster. The Mid-Atlantic Tours roster, as a side note, is available now, and you can view that roster at the link going in the chat. The page roster will be available early in the new year. And although you can't double dip your support for these artists with Special Presenter Initiatives money, I do encourage you to check out both these rosters when they're announced and see if you're interested in presenting any of those artists in your season, in addition to your plans for SPI. So what is required in terms of programming for each proposal? What we ask of you in order to be eligible for SPI support is that the project you're proposing includes at least one performance open to the general public and at least one community engagement activity in addition to that performance. There's lots of ways to define community engagement, and we'll ask you to do that in the application. Both the performance and the community engagement activities can be in person or virtual for this program. Your proposed project does need to meet these requirements. It needs to take place between July 1st, 2024 and June 30th, 2025. It cannot be a fundraising event. You can certainly sell tickets and make money off of this performance to support the cost of the engagement, but we ask we require that the program not fund something that would be, for example, part of a gala performance or an event that is specifically around raising funds for your organization. The performance needs to serve a public audience. So something that would be not available to the public to attend, like, for example, a school show that is not open to anyone else other than the students at that school, would not be eligible as your public performance component. But that could serve as a really great additional community engagement activity for your project. So grant amounts and eligible requests. In your special presenter initiatives application, you can request up to 50% of the negotiated artist fee, up to $2,000 if you are in DC, Delaware, or West Virginia, or up to $5,000 for Puerto Rico and US Virgin Islands presenters. The negotiated artist fee needs to be listed in the countersigned agreement between presenter and artist. In addition to the 50% of the negotiated fee, you can also request up to $2,000 for other eligible expenses. That could be anything related to the direct costs of the project, like your staff time, any rentals you might incur through the production of this or the presentation of this artist, or any accessibility accommodations that you are planning to provide, like ASL interpretation. All grants awarded from Mid-Atlantic Arts need to be matched on a one-to-one basis, which with non-federal funds, meaning that if you were awarded $3,000 from Mid-Atlantic Arts, you would need to match that funding with another $3,000 for a total project budget of $6,000. That other funding could come from ticket sales, individual donations, other foundation funding, non-federal funding sources of any kind. We'll talk about the budget more when we look at the application, which we'll do in just a moment. So here we go. I'm going to stop this screen share and move us into the screen share for the application portal itself. So here we are. You should now see the Smart Simple login page for Mid-Atlantic Arts. You can access this page through Mid-Atlantic Arts' new website, which was just recently updated if you haven't checked it out in a while. You can go to the Special Presenter Initiatives program page on our website, and it'll link you directly to this page. So I'm going to log in with my test account here. And we're going to get started taking a look at the application. When you log into Smart Simple, you're going to see a page that looks something like this if you've already created your account. The first thing you're going to do when you get started with your Special Presenter Initiatives application is go to Available Applications, go to Funding Opportunities. And you can see here that there are two opportunities available, the Special Presenter Initiatives grant, as well as Arts Connect. You'll hit this purple Apply Now button under Special Presenter Initiatives to get your application started. Since I've already started my test application, I'm going to bring us back to the home page here, which I did by clicking the Mid-Atlantic Arts logo. And then I'm going to go to My Application in Progress. Once you've begun your application, this is where you'll be able to access it and return to it and continue editing it until you're ready to submit. You'll hit this open button, and then this is the application that you'll see. The first thing that you're going to want to do when you start your application is hit Save Draft. You'll see this note appear before entering any info, hit Save Draft. The reason for that is because that really gets your application started. It will populate this organizational info page for you, and just it'll securely lodge the application in your profile. So your organization information, as I said, will auto-populate here. If you need to update anything, you can click this Update Organization Profile button, and it will give you the opportunity to adjust. So just go ahead and make sure that all of this is still correct. And next, we'll go on to the Project tab. This is where you'll enter the basic overview information for the Special Presenter Initiative program that you are proposing. So that'll include the name of the artist, the project start and end dates, and rough number of days the project will take place in your community. A number of questions, just basics about the project. We'll also ask for a signed letter of agreement between the presenter, that's you applying, and the artist that you plan to present. This signed letter of agreement is a really important component of your application because we use the information in that letter of agreement and cross-check it with the budget and project activities that you've listed here to make sure that you and the artist are on the same page about the scope of the project. So next, we'll take a look at work samples. These should be submitted as URL links. The links can be from any website as long as they have a URL attached to view. So you'll go ahead and paste that URL in the box here, and once you hit Save Draft, it will automatically create a clickable link version in your application, but you won't see that until you put in the web link and hit Save Draft. In addition to the link, we'll also ask for your timestamp. If your link is more than 2 minutes long, we'll ask for a password if applicable, and a brief description and a bit more information about the work sample itself. Video of the proposed work is definitely encouraged, but if no video of the proposed work exists, you can provide alternative work samples that best display the type of work that you're proposing the artist will bring to your community. The work samples can be from any time, but we definitely encourage more recent work samples over older work samples when available. All right, going on next to the narrative section. Here we'll ask whether your organization has that 3-year history of presenting performing arts ensembles. If you say no, we'll just ask one other question about your organization's plan for presenting the artist within your existing staffing structure. This just lets us know that you've prepared internally to support the artist that you plan to present with this support. If you applied for special presenter initiatives last year, these narrative questions will look very similar. But if you haven't applied for a few years, do note that we've updated the narrative as of last cycle. We'll ask you to talk first a bit about your mission. So to enter your mission statement and describe how the project advances that mission. We will want to see the connection here from your mission, whatever it is, goes in this top box. And in this box, we'll want to see specifically about the artist or company that you're proposing. What is it about that artist that helps advance that mission? You pasted above. For this question and all of the narrative questions, we have directed you to the criteria points that the questions are really speaking to. So when the reviewers look through your application, the narrative questions, for example, are going to contribute to the reviewer's assessment of the project's mission impact. Scrolling down, we will also ask, why do you want to work with this artist or company? What is exciting to you about their performances or community engagement activities? This is how we will assess the project's artistry in addition to the work sample. And then this last narrative is how you as the presenter are going to, how the reviewers are going to assess how accessible your project is. And we're talking about accessibility across multiple axes. So that includes age, class, disability status, gender, geographic location, race, sexual orientation, or any other factors that might limit participation to performing arts activities in your geographic area. So we don't necessarily need you to talk about every single one of those, potential axes, but we would love to see, you cover in depth, as much as the space will allow, your plans for making the programming that you are proposing accessible as much as possible. So the next tab here is for project activities. So we will want to see you share each project activity that is being proposed, including the performance components and at least one community engagement activity. You'll have an opportunity to tell us the location and date and the short description, projected attendance, pricing, and whether or not this activity is confirmed. To add a project activity, you'll hit this Enter Project Activities button, and that will pull up a new window into which you can enter each of these fields. Next, we're going to take a look at this budget section. The negotiated artist fee should be in this top box. This is the same fee that you've listed in the countersigned agreement that you've uploaded between yourself and the artist or company that you're proposing to work with. If you need to, if you go ahead and put in all your project expenses up here and then hit Save Draft, the budget will automatically populate the maximum fee subsidy request amount and maximum other eligible expenses amounts that you are able to request based on the expenses that you described above. So a great tip is to go ahead and fill out your expenses and then come down to this grant request section and see what you're able to populate. Then you'll fill out your income. And as I said earlier, the project does need to be matched dollar for dollar with non-federal funds. So here we'll ask you to put in what your matching funds look like, as well as any additional funds that you plan to procure for this project. You're welcome to enter federal funds. They just cannot be part of your dollar for dollar match. So that takes us to the artist consent page. This is a question about whether you have had a chance to talk with the artist about the project that you're proposing and what that looks like. Of course, you'll have had some communication because you will have completed a countersigned agreement. But here we want to understand whether you've had, what other kinds of communication you've had up to this point with the artist. The For Our Records page will auto-populate with information that you fill out when you complete your profile. If you need to update that, you can do so with these purple buttons here, Update Organization Profile or Contact Profile. But there are a few questions on here that you still need to answer. One is the project discipline. This discipline list comes from the National Standard for the Arts Information Exchange that is used by the NEA and helps the NEA with data collection. Just pick the category that best fits your project. It may not be a perfect fit. Finally, the certification page is where you'll confirm that you will comply with all federal statutes and regulations that are listed here. There are links to each one directly on this page if you'd like to learn more. Make sure to review them and let me know if you have any questions about what is outlined here as they apply to your grant or your organization. At the bottom of this page, you'll list your name and your title and and your email here. And when you're all set, you'll hit submit. If you hit submit and you haven't filled out any required portion of the application is going to let you know. It will tell you to go back and fill out those pieces that you haven't yet completed. Otherwise, it will go through and you'll receive a confirmation of submission after you see that submission go through. So now that we've gone through the application, I'm going to switch back to sharing our slide deck. And we're going to talk about the process of review for the Special Presenter Initiative program. So after you submit your application, staff will review for eligibility issues. You'll be contacted if we have any questions. Then Mid-Atlantic Arts will meet with your state or jurisdictional arts agency, plus one additional external reviewer to review the application and make funding recommendations. From there, Mid-Atlantic Arts Board of Directors gives the final approval on funding recommendations. And applicants will be notified of their selection status via email at the end of May 2024. The review criteria for SPI include mission impact or grant impact, artistry, community benefit, and access. The guidelines have more information on each of these criteria points, and as we talked about in the application, each narrative question is related to one of these criteria points. All criteria have equal weight. All criteria will also be reviewed through the lens of Mid-Atlantic Arts mission, vision, and guiding principles, which are available at midatlanticarts.org. The link to that page that describes those mission, vision, and guiding principles pieces are going in the chat now. I do encourage you to read over this page and consider how your application, including your narrative and your listed project activities, address each of these criteria. So regarding award notification, as I mentioned, applicants will be notified of the status of your proposal by the end of May 2024. And if awarded, 90% of the award will be made at the start of the grant period, provided that the recipient has completed all the necessary information and submitted a countersigned contract with the artist or company. An exception to this might be if your engagement is taking place right at the beginning of the project period. So if you have, knowing that the project period is July 1, 2024 through June 30th, 2025, if your project takes place on July 5th, we will get the funding to you just as soon as possible after you've completed your grant award agreement, since the turnaround is quite quick between your notification and the actual project period. So we have our important dates and deadlines listed here once more for reference. The final application deadline is March 14th, 2024. And as I just mentioned, the project period for SPI supported engagement is July 1st, 2023 through June 30th, 2024. Oh, excuse me. This should read July 1st, 2024 through June 30th, 2025. My apologies. And a few other opportunities that I want to share with you. This Thursday, December 7th, I'm going to be, sorry about that. I'm just going to talk you through some other opportunities that we have to share with you today through Mid-Atlantic Arts. So this Thursday, December 7th, I'll be hosting an informational webinar about the Mid-Atlantic Tours program that I mentioned earlier. This is the roster program that I described earlier on in the presentation. The roster artists are not eligible for concurrent SPI support, but they do have their own funding pool available to support up to 50% of the artist fee. So the link to register for that webinar is going in the chat now. And then we also are going to be hosting a roster artist share, which is an opportunity for you to hear directly from the roster artists about the programming that they have available to bring to your community. And you can ask them any questions you have about whether their project would be a good fit directly through breakout rooms in that meeting. And finally, I want to let you know about a new program that Mid-Atlantic Arts has collaborated with the other 5 regional arts organizations on this year. It is called Arts Here. And this is an opportunity that will invest in organizations that have demonstrated a capacity and a commitment to equity within their practices and programming, with the goal of increasing arts participation for underserved communities and sharing insight that may inform similar funding in the future. So our tier is going to grant approximately 95 nonprofit organizations with non-matching grants of $65,000 to $130,000. And grants are for specific projects that will strengthen each organization's capacity to support and sustain meaningful community engagement and increase arts participation. So the link for our tier is also going in the chat. If you think you might be a good fit for this program, I really encourage you to check it out. So that is the end of what I have to share with you about special presenter initiatives and those other opportunities there at the end. If you have any questions, now is the time to go ahead and put them in the chat. I am here and available through the hour to answer any questions, but I'm also available, beyond this presentation for any one-on-one consultation or any support that you might need as you go through the process of completing your application. So with that, I am going to pause here and wait for questions to come in through the Q&A. If you don't have any questions, you are also welcome to sign off now. And do know that you can reach out to me anytime. My email is sliudis@midatlanticarts.org. Now we'll see if we have any questions in the Q&A.
We don't have any currently listed, but oh, wait, here's one.
Thanks, Sarah. Yeah, just giving folks a chance to put them in the box. Okay, Heather asks, can you explain how a performance that is a shared billing would be applied for this grant? Say a dance company and a music group in one show. That's a good question. And frankly, the structure of this grant opportunity is not conducive to engagements that are shared billing across multiple artists or companies. The best way to go about this would be to apply for special presenter initiative for one artist within that shared bill and apply, with the letter of agreement for that artist, with the budget as it applies for that artist. But this program is not meant to support multiple artists across a festival, for example, or across a shared evening. There could be other ways this could be approached. And if you want to talk through it, I would be very, very happy to set up a call with you and we can think through what makes most sense for your situation. Because there just may be other ways we could think about it depending on the structure of the shared bill. But in general, I would say this is not a grant that supports festivals or mixed bills in terms of giving broad support for the entire festival or mixed bill. But you certainly can apply for an individual artist within that mixed bill or festival through this program, as long as the project meets all the required components, including that live public performance and at least one community engagement activity. We'll hang out for just a few more minutes to see if we get any other questions in the Q&A. All right, and seeing none, I think we are going to go ahead and wrap up today, but thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. for today's Special Presenter Initiatives webinar. Please reach out to me with any questions about this program, and thanks again for your interest. Hope everyone has a great day. Take care.